Okay, so from last episode, we know that Jesse he went to see those two dealers of Gus because he just found out they had just murdered a 11-year-old kid. So he decided to kill both of them. But Walter intervened. He drove his car and he hit these two dealers of Gus and killed him. And he asked Jesse to hide. And on the other hand, himself met Gus on the suburbs. So the opening part of today's episode was Walter met Gus on the suburb. So when Gus met him, uh, he asked about his health condition. And Walter, he had no idea why he asked about that. So Gus continued to say that not a normal man would do anything like this to endanger their business. So Walter told him that his partner, which was Jesse, was about to get himself shot. So that's why he intervened. And the reason why Jesse was angry was because he found out those two dealers of his murdered a 11-year-old kid. So he was angry about that. And uh, he told Gus that he always struck him as a very pragmatic man. So he wanted to review some options with him. So the first option he brought up was that Gus could kill him right there, right now. And clearly he had made that very easy for him to do that. And no witnesses there. And then he could spend a few months to track Jesse down and then kill him too. But that was a pointless exercise, he said. And that was option A he proposed. And option B was that he continued cooking. He can, when he can get back to cook again, then both of them forget about this ever happened. So we know that Gus was a very practical man. He is a very pragmatic businessman. So of course he wouldn't choose option A. So instead he chose option B. But ever since this happened, he didn't trust Walter anymore. So he sent Gail back to the lab as an assistant again. Then he asked Victor. Victor is the guy who worked for Gus, his man, to stay in the lab and watched every move he made. And then he changed the lock of the lab. So one night, he showed up in Gail's house. He visited him in his house, and he lied to Gail that Walter was dying of cancer. So he didn't want to be cold-blooded, but he need to he needed to consider the worst case scenario. So he wanted to know how much time Gale needed so that he could take over the lab on his own. So after few seconds consideration, Gale told Gus that maybe only one batch to work with Walter, then he can fully understand his method and take over the lab on his own. So Gus was very happy and satisfied with his answer. And from this part, we know that he had already made up his mind to get rid of Walter. And on the other hand, he wouldn't let Jesse get away with that. So he asked Mike uh, to track him down. So Mike get the address from Saul, but that address was the fake one. So after that, Saul asked Walter out to take a tour on on the laser tag. That's the reason. That's the excuse. He asked Walter out to see if this was a good money laundering location. It's a good location for money laundering. But that was just an excuse. The reason why they went there was because Jesse was hiding there. And Walter told Saul that maybe his car was bugged. So that's why they acted like this, like they were going to this place uh, only for checking this checking this place if it was a good location for money laundering. So uh, Jesse and Walter they checking in with each others, and Walter told him that he knew Gus was about to kill him, and they needed to act faster than he was. So uh, the plan he brought up was to kill Gale, but Victor watched every move he made. He couldn't shake him for even an hour, so he needed Jesse's help to follow him and get his address. So on the night, Walter was home and he received a phone call from Jesse. And Jesse had already found where he lived. So Walter told him once it got dark, then he would do his plan to, make it like an accident to kill him. So when it got dark, he went outside and he was about to fulfill his plan. But Victor, somehow, he was waiting on the outside of his house, and he told Walter there were some chemical leaks in the lab that needed him to take care of that. So Walter was brought to the place, but when he got there, he found Mike was there as well. So once he saw Mike there, he realized that was the night they were about to get rid of him. So he was scared, and Walter turned to Mike, begging him to let him go, and he told him to to talk to talk with Gus. He said that he could cook for them for free, and he would give them Jesse Pinkman, but he didn't know where he lived right now. That was just an excuse. So he didn't know his current whereabouts. He's been moving around. So he asked for their permission to call Jesse, and Mike allowed. So Jesse received the call from Walter, and Walter told him that he couldn't do that, and it had to be him to kill Gale. And he said that he was brought to the lab and they were about to kill him, so he couldn't do that right there, right now. So Jesse realized how bad the situation was. So he led the laser tag with his gun and headed uh, to Gale's house, to where he lived. So Mike was angry because he couldn't wrap his mind around what they're talking about on the phone. So he pointed his gun against Walter and asked him, what the hell was that? And Walter told him that you might want to hold off because your boss was gonna need me. And then Mike said, why? Why is that? And Walter told him that he literally said the address of Gail's house. So Mike realized They planned to kill him, and he was so shocked about this. So he asked Victor to get to the scene as soon as possible. Then he tried to call Gale and to warn him, but Gale played a very loud music in his house, so he didn't hear that, but he heard someone was knocking on the door. So he answered the door, he opened the door, and there was Jesse. So Jesse took out his gun and pointed to his head, and he was scared. He's scared shitless, and he was begging for Jesse to let him go. But Jesse was totally silent, and he was shaking, and his eyes full of tears. And after a few seconds, he didn't say anything. Then he pulled the trigger. And that was the end of the episode.